Oh, hey, hon, yes, I did go to the store and pick up spice. We got chili powder and we got some sazon completa. What? You wanted spice from Dune? Oh. What's going on, everyone? James here with another real review, and today I'm so excited to get into my spoiler-free thoughts on Dune. Yes, the 2021 film. A huge thank you to Warner Brothers for giving me the chance to watch this in an IMAX theater. Guys, IMAX is the way to go for many reasons, but I'll explain those reasons as we go on. So, I need to be honest, this is my most anticipated movie of the year, so I was going to come into this already expecting a lot. And I'm going to answer if it delivered or not. Now, if you don't know, it's directed by Denis Villeneuve, who's directed some amazing films like Blade Runner 2049, Arrival, and even Sicario. And then you have Timothée Chalamet in the lead role with Rebecca Ferguson, Zendaya, and Oscar Isaac. But it's an ensemble cast, y'all, so there are a lot of performances we're going to get into in this review. Now, I am a non-book reader. I haven't even seen the David Lynch 1984 movie, so I came into this cold, and I'm happy to say, if you are also coming into this relatively blind, you're going to be able to understand it. But if you do need a little bit of the story before you sit down and watch it either in theaters or on HBO Max next weekend, let's talk about it. Dune is the film adaptation of the popular sci-fi novel of the same name by author Frank Herbert, and the story itself in this film surrounds Paul Atreides, son of a noble family who was given the responsibility of taking care of the most important element in the galaxy, spice. And yes, I've learned now that spice is not something that you consume, well, not putting on food at least. It's something that is an element on this planet of Arrakis, and man, oh man, let me tell y'all, this story, well, I kind of want a part 2 now. But hey, before we get into my review, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where we break down movies and TV like this all the time, so you're not going to want to miss out. Go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, and tap on that bell, y'all, so you don't miss out on the rest of the content for this year. Hit that thumbs up button if you're a fan of Dune, and hey, get loud down below when you see this movie, or if you've already seen this film, let me know what you think. Did this rise to the level of your expectations, or did it even exceed them? Alrighty, y'all, well, you know what? It's time to get into my review, but we're doing things a little different. You know how we always do a positives and a negative section? We're breaking this down into categories because there's a lot to love here. And it starts with this film being a technical masterpiece. Denis Villeneuve really is in that top tier ranking of directors working today. He's up there with Barry Jenkins, with Christopher Nolan, with so many directors like Steven Spielberg even that I adore in this industry. And let me tell you, the way he captures the insane scale of Dune is incredible. And honestly, I expected Denis Villeneuve to deliver in terms of scale because his films are massive, and this is a sci-fi epic by the very definition. The sheer magnitude of this movie is one that an IMAX screen could hardly contain, you guys. And I'm not over-exaggerating here. There were moments where I thought, can this screen get larger? Because I just want more. And I really love that Denis captures the desert world of Arrakis perfectly. There are other worlds we go to, but it is Arrakis where all the magic happens. And y'all, he brings along some of the best in the game today to help him bring this movie to life on the technical side of things. And that starts with Hans Zimmer, who is right next to John Williams in terms of best all-time composers to me. But in this film, guys, he delivers the best and most powerful score of the year. It's pulse pounding when it needs to be, it's subtle sometimes, and guys, it is a main character for all intents and purposes. I just love how Hans Zimmer marries the action and draws me in during those moments that are basically pretty intimate in this movie, and he continues to prove why he's among the best to ever do it. And yes, of course, I sat in my car after the film listening to the score on the way home because I mean, isn't that normal? Then there's the cinematography by Greg Fraser, who is going to also be the DP on The Batman. And y'all, let me tell you, these scenes in Dune are some scenes that I just can't get out of my head, but in the best way possible. They're just seared into my memory because this movie is beautiful. I love how from set piece to set piece, Greg Fraser had his hand all over this movie, whether it be an extreme close-up on Paul, then Baron slowly and creepily floating into frame, or even the beautiful landscape shots. He just delivers with Dune. It's otherworldly, and it is a sight to see on the biggest screen possible. And I'm also not going to forget how unreal the costume design and makeup departments were in this movie. They're honestly awards worthy, and I do want to give credit where credit is due. The costume design by Bob Morgan and Jacqueline West was just so unique. And each group of people in this movie had their own distinct look, whether it be House Atreides or the Fremen on Arrakis. But going one step even further, the makeup department here just continually floored me, and I would love to mention everyone's name, but it is a large makeup department, so I'm just going to throw it up on the screen anyway. And I will tell you that each person in this department, and even those unsung heroes that might not even get credited, they deserve a lot of praise here. And I immediately think of Stellan Skarsgård as the Baron because they jump off the screen with their amazing makeup work. It's just great stuff that is the cherry on top of a film that, guys, I'll tell you, nails it in these categories. The only gripe I have in this department, though, when it comes to the technical side of things, is that sometimes the CGI can be a little noticeable, but not in a good way. There's this moment where Timothée Chalamet's character, Paul Atreides, is having a dream, and he sees himself in this armor during this fight, and the armor sort of lifts, and you see his face, and it does look a little poorly CGI'd. It did look like that in the trailer. I said that in my reaction, and I kind of felt the same way in the final film, hoping that it would get better, but it didn't really get better, so it pulled me out of that moment just a little bit. But I will tell you, that doesn't happen often in Dune. Alrighty guys, so let's hop right into the acting in this film, because like I mentioned earlier, this is an ensemble film, but it is a great ensemble movie. And admittedly, when I first heard about Dune, I didn't know anything about the book. I didn't even know about the story. I just saw Denis Villeneuve directing it, and guess what? This cast is led by so and so and so. And I was in. And I'm happy to say that this movie and its cast exceeded my expectations, and it begins with our main character and the person the story surrounds, Paul Atreides, played by Timothée Chalamet. Now before Dune, I thought Timothée Chalamet's strongest performance was Lady Bird, and I'll be honest, he didn't really blow me away by anything he did before Dune. But in this film, he proves not only to be an actor who understands the childlike innocence of this character, and then he's able to mature over time as he's called to be a leader, but he displays range. There's this scene with Rebecca Ferguson and Timothée Chalamet within a tent, and this insane amount of emotion that he emits is just incredible. So for me, this is Timothée Chalamet's best performance to date. And speaking of Rebecca Ferguson, she plays Jessica Atreides, who's the concubine to Leto Atreides, the Duke. Now in every ensemble cast, you know there's going to be a couple of standouts, or in a good ensemble cast there usually are, but here there's one scene stealer for me. And that's Rebecca Ferguson. She has this uncanny chemistry with Timothée Chalamet, and the way she taps into the role as both mother and partner is just incredible, because they team up honestly so often after the film gets through its first act, and I thought, oh my gosh, I need to see more of this duo in part 2, please. But that's me being selfish. Honestly, Rebecca Ferguson by herself is able to just express this pure terror and emotion of her character from scene to scene. I honestly forgot to blink sometimes because Rebecca Ferguson was just killing it on screen. But let's move on to another character who I think is going to be a fan favorite and is one of my favorites in the movie as well. Jason Momoa's character of Duncan Idaho. This is one of House Atreides' best warriors and close friend to Paul, but once again guys, Jason Momoa proves that he can balance both being charming, full of charisma, but also have enough emotion to allow me to feel the weight of a moment. And I'll just say this, by the end of the movie, he had me cheering for his character. Well, internally, because I don't want to be that guy that kind of gets up and starts clapping in the middle of a press screening, but I loved his performance, honestly, and it is going to be the most relatable performance for so many, and for me, it was probably the most relatable character. But outside of those standouts, guys, there's a slew of great supporting performances here as well, and some that I think will inevitably get more shine in Dune Part 2. That starts with Zendaya as Shani, who is a character that Paul sees in his dreams, and of course, a character that Paul was able to actually meet in the second half of the film. But what I love so much is that we get more and more of Zendaya as the movie goes on, and I actually love her performance here because it's not only subtle, but she just has so much of her imprint on this performance while still delivering something fresh for the character of Shani. It's everything you love about Zendaya, just put in a sci-fi world, and it fits. Even though I was a little disappointed we didn't get more of her here, I do think they're setting the center stage for her in part 2. Now let's move on to actually two actors that aren't necessarily standouts, but I do think they serve their purpose very well. And that's Oscar Isaac as Leto Atreides, the Duke of House Atreides, father to Paul, and of course Josh Brolin as Gurney. I do think both of these performances are good, but they never really kind of get to that great level, and that's only because I think they're serving telling the story rather than trying to be like the leads. And I think they understood the assignment just fine. There's even a moment between Josh Brolin and Timothée Chalamet that took my breath away in that first act. And Oscar Isaac is so good at being just this man that's full of swagger, yet he's able to take this step back, be cool, collected, and calm, and he just really fits the role as the Duke. And I also got to shout out Sharon Duncan Brewster as Dr. Keynes, who was incredible. She made me like her character enough that by the end of the film, I was like, can we get more? How much time do we have left? No, we need more of this character. And one role that I really hope does get magnified in part 2 is Javier Bardem's role as Stilgar. I think it's going to happen, of course, but man, the way he is able to just command the screen in this movie is so on brand, because that's what Javier Bardem does. He commands the screen whenever he's present, and honestly, he makes the script his own. There are certain mannerisms that I think only Javier Bardem could have expressed here, and it is just incredible. So yeah, no real negatives here, you guys, in the acting department, but I do wish we got more of Stephen McKinley Henderson as Thufir, because I loved him as House Atreides' general. Alrighty, y'all, so let's move right along to the world building, the story of Dune, and the lore that this movie oozes, because y'all, it was not overwhelming, and instead, I selfishly just wanted to dive deeper into the world of Arrakis. And for a movie that's 2 hours and 35 minutes, it's gotta knock it out of the park in first, second, and third acts, and guess what? It does that, and due in large part to the world being so immersive. And it's crazy because before I got into this movie, I heard about spice, but I didn't know what the heck, why was it so important? But it's the stage setting that Denis Villeneuve does in that first act that allows me to understand why spice is important, who the enemies are, who the players are going to be, and why Paul is going to be so important as the film goes on. So there's little breadcrumbs left. Basically, Denis doesn't front load this movie. Instead, he's able to even it out and allow the story to breathe over all 3 acts. I love the pacing of the movie as well, because there is this slow start that, yes, I do think a lot of people might not love, but I was able to give it a pass. And that's because I knew this movie was going to be a marathon, not a sprint, and that there were going to have to be at least 2 more parts to this entire series, right? Because this book is massive, and even Denis said, guys, there's going to be more than part 1, only if you stream it on HBO Max, though, according to the big bosses, so stream it on HBO Max and see it in theaters. But man, I do think that this story just is so dynamic, and it allowed me to just want more by the end credits. But when it does come to the world building, I love the various houses, the languages spoken, and the abilities that Paul, Jessica, and others have. And yes, there's this cool technology that you like tap something on your watch and you get this like force field, I don't know, armor. And I'm like, Apple, are you gonna include that on the next Apple Watch? Because I kind of need that. But for me, it's the attention to detail that I really love. Let's take the Bene Gesserit, for example. Jessica and Paul, of course, have that blood in them, and there's this ability they have called the voice, where if they find the right pitch, they can get anyone to do what they command. And the sound design there, it gave me chills. I literally had goosebumps on my arm because of how amazing it sounded, but also because of how effective it was. And when you get to a certain point in this movie where Timothée Chalamet's character of Paul Atreides needs to actually use the voice, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was speechless. And even though I'm singing the praises of the story here, guys, there is only one thing I didn't like about the story and the length of the film overall. I really did feel that 2 hour, 30 something minute runtime by the final act. The last 20 to 30 minutes for me got a little long, and I did look at my watch at one point because I thought, we're getting really close to the end here, but it almost feels like there's 45 more minutes left to go. But luckily that wasn't enough, and it didn't last long enough for me to be distracted by what we were watching, because yes, once the end credits do come into play, when the music and the score sort of crescendos and then it cuts to black, it was still a hype moment, it was still epic, and it really did let me know that yes, part 2 is going to be incredibly amazing. So overall, you guys, Dune is without a doubt one of my favorite movies, if not arguably my favorite movie so far of 2021. And it's very rare that my most anticipated movie or movies going into a year really have the expectations met, but with Dune and what Denis Villeneuve was able to craft with this cast, crew, and everyone involved, he not only met my expectations, but he exceeded them. And part 1 did its job because it made me more excited for part 2. I mean, I just wanted to rewatch part 1 again once those end credits ran, because it's not only a spectacle and showcase of Denis Villeneuve's insane ability to direct, but man, the way he's able to tell this story over the course of almost 3 hours, is just on another level. The cast, like I said, is incredible, and each actor does just enough to service the story and allow everything to feel fresh. I felt like there were so many things going on, yet I was able to comprehend every aspect. So if you're wondering, oh my gosh, is this overwhelming for someone who doesn't understand the lore in the world of Dune? It's not. Luckily, the way it's painted is in a way for us to understand everything, even in moments when you think, I might have missed that. Dang it, I don't know if they'll ever address it again. Well, they do. So they allow the audience to kind of come along at a slow, methodical pace, but by the end, I think you're going to be hooked on Dune just like I am. It really is a treat for sci-fi fans and fans of big event movies, because that's exactly what Dune is. An event that shouldn't be missed. So there you have it, you guys. That's my real review of Dune. If I had to rate it out of 5 stars, I'd give it a 1 out of 5. I'm kidding, of course I would give it a 5 out of 5. This movie is really sitting up at the top of my movies of 2021. But hey, I need to know what you think about this film. Did you love it as much as I did? And if you did, let me know down below. And if you didn't, let me know too. Let's have that conversation. And hit the big red button below if you haven't already subscribed to the channel. Tap on that bell and hit the thumbs up button if you are a big fan of Dune, sci-fi movies, and just these awesome event type films in general. Alrighty, y'all. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. Alright, my allergies are kicking in, and I think it's the Saison Completa. It really is good though. I need to put this on my chicken. I'll be right back.